The various dictionaries, tragedy, drama of elevated theme and diction with an unhappy ending, sad event, serious accident, calamity. Collins says tragedy. Sad or calamitous event, dramatic literary work dealing with serious, sad topic and with ending marked by inevitable disaster. Interesting, inevitable. One of the myths I'd like to dispel is the idea that tragedy cannot be funny, that tragedy hasn't got its humorous side. The three plays we're going to be looking at are the Hamlet, which we all know, Macbeth, and a play called The Changeling, which is by Thomas Middleton and Rowley. Now, each of these plays are described as tragedies, but they contain a lot of humor. And I find when I'm working as an actor, the thing that I get onto, the thing that makes the text live for me is a sense of the reality of the scenes that one is doing, which means mining everything you can out of those scenes in terms of comedy, in terms of tragedy. I think...
But isn't it a sort of a self-knowledge that, I mean, we all have a view of how we are perceived by others, and that a character has that and often is trying to run away from perhaps their worst side that they're all too aware of?
Yeah, I think that we all, I mean, the thing in our own natures, I mean, if we talk about individuals, the thing that's always hard to face up to is those things which are, that we don't like about ourselves. And we never acknowledge them. Usually, the great tragic figure understands that aspect of himself. He understands that thing that is fatal, that thing that he is frightened of.
You kicked up two things, that the fatal flaw and the inevitability.
Yeah.
If you're going back to acting in tragedy, the problem with being an actor in say, in the pivotal role of any of those parts, to what extent are you aware of the fatal flaw which the intellectuals tell you that the play contains or that your character contains? And to what extent also are you aware of the inevitability of the unhappy ending? I mean, there's a writer or an actor called Michael Chekhov who says that specifically for acting in tragedy, the actor at all times is aware of a sort of doppelganger or a spiritual force pushing him towards the inevitable unhappy ending.
It's machina.
That's right. So to what extent as an actor?
I mean, it's a very nitty-gritty one, that one, you know.
Sorry.
I think, no, I mean, it's very important because maybe you shouldn't know. But then the actor's knowledge is he's got to know where he's wielding this material towards. And you've got to actually learn about ignorance, you know. Do you know what I mean? You've got to learn that at certain times you can't go down that road. You know, you can't play, yes, I'm aware I'm a tragic figure. You don't do that. You play a series of actions, and you play them remorselessly. You know, like in Titus Andronicus, Titus is a tragic figure, but he's also stupid, you know, because he doesn't recognize certain things. And what the play is about is the process of recognition, of saying, listen, old man, it's like that. And he's going, he says, yeah. And eventually the inevitability dawns on him that it is like that, which is usually what happens in tragedies. You know, that there is this process of inevitable enlightenment when it's just too late. This is the scene which starts off stage with the killing of Duncan. Macbeth, Duncan has come to stay in Macbeth's castle, or home, or bungalow, or semi-detached, or whatever it is. And he's come to spend the night there. And there's already been a discussion about whether he should be killed or not, and if this is the time to do it. And the decision has been taken that indeed this is the night that he will be killed. And this scene concerns, it's the famous dagger scene. It's the aftermath of the murder. Let's just examine the specifics of this first speech. Let's just deal with the first speech.
Do you want me to say it? That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. That which what hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark! Peace, it was the owl that shrieked, the fatal bellman which gives the sternest good night. He is about it. The doors are open, and the surfeited grooms do mock their charge with snores. I have drugged their possets, that death and nature do contend about them, whether they live or die.
So, what's happening in that speech? What's the geography of that speech? Anybody?
She comes on and she says, "It's fine, it's great. I'm in total..." What's that?
Right.
So there's as if two layers going on. There's the side she's presenting and the side inside.
Do you agree with that?
Yes. Yes.
So what we've got to do is to find the differentiation in the speech. Now, if we imagine when we go into a space, if we don't want to be seen, what's our natural instinct?
Take to the corner, keep to the walls.
Keep to the walls.
Use the
Keep to the
shadows.
walls. Right. Okay. All right. Like, just where are these? We've got the screens there. So, Kathy, I want you to come in here and imagine that's the wall of the castle, right? That's a wall of the room. So that, in a sense, she's not exposing herself into the room yet. She feels that boldness, but she doesn't know what's going on. There is an anticipation. Does that make sense? So that that's the door. So you've got a figure coming in like that. And immediately, there's a story told. Can you see that? Straight away, we have a story. Straight away, there's a story in that shot. That somebody is lurking, somebody is waiting. So that in that speech, she reaches a point of confidence, right? Through the drink, which is good, and saying, "Oh, I'm really here now. I can do it. I can cope with this. I can really handle this." What's the next thing that happens?
She hears the owl.
And what happens to her?
She's afraid.
So, collapse of start party, right?
Yes. And then she's do it. All the next is to reassure
That's
herself.
right. So that constantly she's driving herself.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark! Peace.
Okay, now, I don't want you to anticipate. Let's not anticipate the owl. And wait until the noise scares you.
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. Peace.
You see what happened? Immediately, phew, electric, because she'd reached that point, and then that's what happened. And it's a little noise that does it. It's only a little owl that does it. But it should have that effect. You know, great. Okay, would somebody like to do an owl sound for me? No, I... What's that? Wow! Very good. Could you come over here? There's a gentleman here. We have a volunteer from the audience. Could the volunteer from the audience come and... all right? All right, okay, so you're the owl, and you're behind there. Right, okay. Right.
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark! Peace.
No, it's good. If you laugh, it's perfectly legitimate. It's absolutely legitimate because one might very well laugh like this. One might actually, the release might make you nervous and say, "Oh, gee. What was that?" You see? And that is perfectly legitimate. Have you ever been on a one of those suction machines in the what are they called? Rotary machines in the fair, where the floor goes away, right? I want you to imagine during the speech that that's what's happening to you. That the floor is going away so that you're clinging onto the wall and it's moving. Right?
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold.
Can I just remind you about one thing? Just get a sense of space, which is when you come in, have a sense of that as the world over there so that it's pulling you into here. Do you see what I mean?
Yes.
So it's that there, so that you're keeping away from it. And it's that that makes you move, boys. And I'll show you what happens, so that you're going like that. It's difficult. It's really difficult. So you've got to control it, control your thing, so that you're there and then stop. So that you will find that you've gone on an incredible journey, which is the journey that you must go on internally, but you'll feel the external feeling of it.
That which hath made them drunk hath made me bold. What hath quenched them hath given me fire. Hark! Peace! 'Tis the owl that screamed, the fatal bellman that gives the sternest good night. He is about it. The doors are open, and the surfeited grooms do mock their sleepy charge with snores. I have drugged their possets, that death and nature do contend about them, whether they live or die.
Who's there? What? Ho!
Alack! I'm afraid they have awaked, and 'tis not done. The attempt and not the deed confounds us. Hark! I laid their daggers ready. He could not miss them. Had he not resembled my father as he slept, I had done it.
Is there a line that strikes you when you hear that speech?
Yeah, my father as he slept.
All right, okay, very good. If I had not resembled my father, you resembled my father,
As he slept,
I'd have slept, I'd have done it. Now, what does that imply about, what do you think about Lady Macbeth? What does that tell you about her?
Weak. Has a weakness.
She has a weakness. She is moved by the old man lying there. Which, there's this supposedly bloodlusting Sarah Siddons type idea of this incredible woman who, and she says, if he hadn't looked like Daddy, I would have done it. Which is a very, and it really is telling you something about an element of tenderness in the speech.
So that's the crux of why she didn't do it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Herself.
Herself. But leading up to that speech, there was all kinds of things happening. The owl, what's going on? What's going on? So there's all kinds of, I can never know the difference between the words prevarication and procrastination, but it's one of those words. And that she's putting things off. Now, again, this happens in tragedy. It usually happens to people who are beset by enormous, like King Lear or Titus Andronicus. Things are coming at them thick and fast, and they're pushing everything away like that. They're not dealing with them because it's too much, which is also what the actor can use in terms of his stimulus. So he can constantly say, no, it's the bell. What's happening? Oh, God, no. Is he awake? Is it done? No. What's... oh, look, they're ready. I've laid the dregs. That's all been done. I did all that. And then she suddenly says, if it didn't look like Daddy, I would have done it. And that's the most personally revealing point of that speech. So that the journey of the speech is going through what she's going through. So now we come to his entrance. Now, obviously, he's done the deed. Now, there's all kinds of things thrown up at this point. There is this man who is a soldier, who's used to killing people, who is, by definition, something his nature has been brutalized. But the individual nature of killing, the fact that he's killing a guest in his own house, an old man, you know, the import of that is gigantic upon him. You've got to sort out priorities in terms of objectives. There are quite clear objectives. First objective, I've done it. Did you hear something?
I heard the owl scream and the crickets cry. Did not you speak?
When?
Now.
As I descended?
Aye.
Shh. Who lies in the second chamber? You see? So that you're immediately, the audience are going, what? What's happening? You know? So you've got to bring them forward. You know, got to get them off the bums, you know. I mean, they're sitting on the bums going, here we go, Macbeth again. Oh, it's Shakespeare again, here we go, ho, ho, ho.
On Shakespeare's day, you had to stop them eating oranges.
That's right.
My husband?
I've done the deed. Didst thou not hear a noise?
I heard the owl scream, the crickets cry. Did not you speak?
When?
Now.
As I descended.
I.
Who lies in the second chamber?
Donalbain?
This is a sorry sight.
Oh, foolish thought to say a sorry sight.
There's one did laugh and sleep. One cried, Amen. Or even one cried murder.
I mean, it seems to me, I may be wrong, but my common sense tells me that given all of what's going on, and this is what I'm talking about, given what's been happening to her, waiting for you to come on, and the fact that when you arrive, everybody in the audience wants to know, what's happened? Macbeth, I have done the deed. You know, so then we go, okay, well, that's done. We've got that out of the way. Do you see what I'm getting at? It's crude, Stephen, but it's absolutely telling us where we are.
The energy's in the text.
The energy is in the text. The text is flowing with you. I mean, if you look at it on the page, I mean, if you look at it on the page here, I mean, it's wonderfully written. Just, you see it on the page before you. It says, you see? It says, I had, can you all see it? See how it does that there? See? You know? Can you see it? You know, it goes, did you not speak? When? Now, as I descended? Aye, heart. And it is monosyllabic. So it's telling you the kind of dynamic that the scene has to have.
My husband.
I've done the deed. Didst thou not hear a noise?
I heard the owl scream, the crickets cry. Did not you speak?
When?
Now.
As I descended.
I.
Who lies in the second chamber?
Donalbain.
This is a sorry sight.
He said, this is a sorry sign. It could be the daggers, but he then goes on and says, what's going on in that room? And it's, we always, the danger is the actor gets into a kind of emotional rut here, and he suddenly says, you know, it's all, you know, what's going on in the room. But if we try and play him retelling this story, which is obsessing him, I mean, he has committed a heinous act, but what he's obsessed by, why he couldn't say amen, that is the thing that's holding in his brain. He's saying, why couldn't I do that? So in a way, what is happening is that he's almost ignoring all this. He's covered in blood, and he's saying, he said, I've done it. And he's covered in blood. He's, I mean, literally covered in it, you know. And he's saying, I mean, look, put your hands in here. Look, there you are. This is the crew's blood that they've they've learnt. So he, you know, there, look, and he's, I won't dribble on the floor, but he's there, and he's saying, you know, I mean, if you look at those hands and that knife, and he's saying, you know, it's very odd what happened up there, because it was really strange, and I was standing there, and I was trying to say this thing, and it was really quite weird, because, and I couldn't say amen. Now, why couldn't I? Can you tell me? That's really why could I not say it? It really is a puzzle, lad. You know, it's now that's comic. But it's true and it's real, because this is what is actually going on in his head. Oh yeah, I've killed people, I know, but they're up there. I mean, I mean, what is so extraordinary is that why did he say that? Well, I really don't understand. So that the brain is going in one way, and meanwhile all this is happening. And there's this guy covered in blood, which is quite horrific. And I've made an absolute ass of myself, which I've got to... Is there anything makeup could get me to wipe this off my face? I did a play called Titus Andronicus. Now, Titus Andronicus is an interesting play because it creates all kinds of problems. It's a tragedy. It really is a tragedy. There are, I don't know, there's something like 1 rape, 13 murders. I mean, it goes on, it's endless. So by the end of the play moves into a whole kind of almost Beckett type world, a world of Sam Beckett, surreal world, where blood has no longer any meaning, that human flesh has no longer any value. People are baked in pies. People are, you know, hands are cut off, tongues are cut out. See, I think there's an area between tragedy and comedy, which all tragedies have, which is this area of ludicrousness, where people behave in a kind of massively ludicrous way, a massively crazy way. It happens in Macbeth with Macbeth's obsession towards the end of going back to the witches, getting everything proved right. And certainly his mayhem that he causes when he wants to wipe out the Macduff family. And he becomes a crazy man. And Titus, the same thing. And Titus's relationship to that which is bloody becomes ironic. That blood no longer has any meaning to him. And when he kills the 2 boys in Titus, when he cuts their throat, when he puts on the bibs, as you know we did, every device that we used was to actually create that distance more and more, to make it more horrible, because of the offhand nature of it. Whereas if you're wallowing in it in the wrong way, it no longer has any meaning. But in Titus, we never had blood until really right at the end of the play, when suddenly I came on a white apron, and we didn't even have it. We just had it in a bowl so that you whip it up, and suddenly you're splatting across white. And that shock of blood across a white apron says more than all the gallons of blood that you see in other productions. But Titus's tragedy is that he's become like a boxer. He's been punch drunk. So he's a bit like that. He can't
Do
really,
a bit.
We can't. Well, I can't do a bit. No, I can't.
Come on,
Well,
go on, do a bit.
I can't. Well. I mean, in Titus, well, what have I let myself in for? You know, when I played Titus, the great thing, and especially in Deborah Warner's rehearsals, was to really make this man have a sense of play. He just wants to retire. But the playwright won't let him retire. He said, no, you've lived your life in a certain kind of way, by brutal acts. Therefore, you've got to pay. It's very moral. Shakespeare is most moral. You've got to pay, and I'm going to rub your nose in it. But also on the way, we're going to have a good time, because we're going to take you on this extraordinary manic journey. Then his daughter is mutilated and raped by these 2 extraordinary kind of freaks boys who have no morality about them, who are like characters out of a Joe Orton play or an Edward Bond play. The way he murders the boys is quite cruel and quite nasty and very frightening and also very funny. And it has to be, as these events are. It's actually ludicrous. And it shows the ludicrousness of life, those actions which, when something is so awful, it's ludicrous. So this is the scene. It's difficult. I haven't done it for a long time. How do we do it? Would you be the two boys for me? Has anybody got, is there a white sheet anywhere? Props. I can't act without props. Tamsin, would you be the girl? So he's got his daughter with him. Now, his daughter has had her hands cut off, except she's holding a basin of blood or she's holding a basin, it's not got blood in it, in her stumps. Like that. And he comes on with her and he says, "Come." So I'll say, "Come. Come, Lavinia. Look, thy foes are bound." Sirs! Stop their mouths! Let them not speak to me, but let them hear what fearful words I utter. Oh, villains. Chiron and Demetrius. Here stands the spring, whom you have stained with blood. This goodly summer with your winter mixed. You killed her husband, and for that vile fault, two of her brothers were condemned to death. My hand cut off and made a merry jest, both her sweet hands, her tongue, and that more dear than hands or tongue, her spotless chastity. Inhuman traitors! You constrained and forced. What would you say if I should let you speak? Oh, villain. You could not beg for shame. Hark, wretches, how I mean to murder you. This one hand yet is left to cut your throats, whilst that Lavinia between her stumps doth hold the basin receives your guilty blood. You know your mother means to feast with me, and calls herself revenge, and thinks me mad. Hark, villains, I will grind your bones to dust, and with your blood and it I'll make a paste, and of the paste a coffin I will rear, and make 2 pasties of your shameful heads, and bid that strumpet, your unhallowed dam, like to the earth, swallow her own increase. This is the feast that I have bid her to, and this the banquet she shall surfeit on. For worse than Philomel, you used my daughter. And worse than progeny, I will be revenged. And now prepare your throats, and Lavinia, come, receive the blood. And when that they are dead, let me go grind their bones to powder small, and with this hateful liquor temper it, and in that paste let their vile heads be big. Come, come, be every one officious to make this banquet, which I wish may prove more stern and bloody than the centaur's feast. So, bring them in. For I'll play the cook and see them ready against their mother comes. Something like that. Now it's your turn to get covered in blood. The Changeling. A great play. And the central character is a girl, Beatrice Joanna. The play has two plots. Our concern is the main plot, which is to do with Vermandero's daughter, Beatrice Joanna. Vermandero being the governor. Beatrice Joanna is his only daughter, who is promised to one man to be married to, and she falls in love with another man, a sailor called Alcimero. And meanwhile, she wants to employ her servant to remove the impediment to her relationship with Alcimero, i.e. get rid of the first boyfriend. And she's a girl who has no sense of her moral actions at all. She's extremely morally confused. De Flores, the man who does the deed, is a servant, and we are given to understand that he is a fallen gentleman. He is a man, obviously, with a history, and a man with an acute moral sense, but a killer. He's a born killer. Killing is what, in some time in his past, has been his trade. And he is absolutely overly infatuated with Beatrice Joanna. But Beatrice Joanna, he's deformed. He has, it's not quite specific, but he has his face is obviously as a result from either smallpox, which of course was prevalent at that time. He's got very badly scarred face, particularly on one side. And the scene we're going to do is the scene after he has killed the boyfriend, and he comes to get his reward from Beatrice Joanna.
De Flores?
I should run mad with joy. She called me fairly by my name. De Flores.
See, that's the first thing. She didn't call me pig. Normally she calls me pig. You know, it's and that's quite a surprise. Once again.
De Flores.
I should run mad with joy. She called me fairly by my name, De Flores, and neither rogue nor rascal.
What have you done to your face of late? You've met with some good physician. You've pruned yourself, methinks. You are not wont to look so amorously.
Not I. 'Tis the same physiognomy to a hair and pimple which she called scurvy scarce an hour ago. How is this?
Come.
That's right, and the great fun is you say, no, he says, how is this? What's she playing at? What's going on here? You know, so she taking me for a ride? I mean, how is this? And what do you say?
Come. The nearer man.
You hear me? I mean, come here, you know.
Come hither. Come nearer, man. Turn. Let me see.
Oh, 'tis but the heat of the liver, I perceived. I thought it had been much worse.
You see, so that you know. Okay, once again.
De Flores.
I shall run mad with joy. She called me fairly by my name, De Flores, and neither rogue nor rascal.
What have you done to your face, o' late? You've met with some good physician. You've pruned yourself, methinks. You were not wont to look so amorously.
Not I. 'Tis the same physiognomy to a hair and pimple, which she called scurvy scarce an hour ago.
And I think, this is where the language does help you, Di. And what we are not very good at, because we've got out to the habit, and it's the most difficult thing, is finding the tone. You may find the objective, but the tone is what's going to help you, which is, what's the key word in that speech of yours?
Amorous.
Amorous. Amorously. That's right. And how power is that power. It's not that power. It's wind them in. You know, there's something there that's getting to them. There's something about this man that really tickles your fancy. We can put it that way. You know, it really does. She really, it's a loathing, but at the same time, absolute fascination. And you're liable to suddenly smack him across the face.
Let's go.
Huh?
Come. Hither. Nearer, man. Turn. Let me see. Woe, 'tis but the heat of the liver, I perceived. I thought it had been much worse.
Her fingers touched me. She smells all amber.
And that attracts you. The thing is, the great thing about it, when it works, is when you do it for one another, but you really do it for one another. That you really trust each other. That you really allow, you don't wait for the other actor to finish his line and then you speak, you know, or you really, all the chemistry has to be created into it. You can't act on your own. You've got to act with your fellow actor. And your fellow actor takes the burden of responsibility off you. You know, it's your other actors who make you look good. You know, and if everybody does that for one another, that's why it's a real community thing. Actors who act on their own, they always look as if they act on their own.
Turn. Let me see. Four. Is but the heat of the liver, I perceived. I thought it had been much worse.
Her fingers touched me. She smells all amber.
I'll make a water for thee. Shall cleanse this within a fortnight.
With your own hands, lady?
Yes, mine own, sir. In a work of cure, I'll trust no other.
'Tis but half an act of pleasure to hear her talk thus to me.
When we are used to a hard face, 'tis not so unpleasing. It mends still in opinion. Hourly mends. I see it by experience.
Good. I think we're doing enough of that. Could you see how that would, you know, you can see how we could get it up. But at least we did the work, that we had the guts and the courage to get down and to the nitty-gritty of the scene and let it grow. So eventually, and of course it's wonderful because the shapes you're making with your body is exactly, I mean, I believe in space. I believe in people not standing in the wrong space, that the space that you create with the actor is so important. The whole business of spatial relationships, if you're playing a scene with somebody, is absolutely important. And in this scene, a lot is being told. If that's going there, the hand's going, then the body's going away, you're telling a lot. By the body language is telling you, and the touch, so that you're keeping it at a distance. You're looking at the face, and you're thinking, this is really extraordinary. And you get closer to it, and then you think, oh. So that there is dance in what you do. Every scene is a dance, in a way. Every scene, there are patterns being made, patterns which you inhabit and which you create and go with. So that frame there is a story. You know, if you take it in the wide shot, if you take it away, that has to be filled. It has to be filled. So the actor has to understand his spatial relationship. He has to understand that he has to fill that as much as he has to fill, if you come in close, this. And it fills this, the voice can go a bit down. He can take it down. And if it goes far and far away, further away, then he can take it up and he can project even more. But it's just a question of knowing that and feeling free with that. That's what you do in theatres. So you plant a whisper at the back of the stalls. You can play quietly in big spaces. You can pull focus. You can make people come towards you by your intention, by your clarity, by the absolute engagement with what you do. Alan, my thoughts are at a banquet.
My thoughts are at a banquet. For the deed, I feel no weight in't. 'Tis but light and cheap for the sweet recompense that I set down for it.
No, that was good. You did use your voice. So, what we have to do is, I mean, that's the image you see on the stage. But television is a natural medium. What you do as an audience is you focus in. You actually focus. You actually make, I mean, I can look at you there with your hair, sorry. You know, I can look absolutely at you and not see those other people. But then I can stand back here and see the group. But I can look at you. And we as humans have a great capacity to do that. And we forget that capacity. We forget that we have actually got that power in us. You know, that's why we like drama. That's why we like live theatre, because we can go and we can watch and we can make that focus. So once again, you're very good on. Have you done this sort of thing before?
My thoughts are at a banquet. For the deed, I feel no weight in't. 'Tis but light and cheap for the sweet recompense that I set down for it.
De Flores,
Lady,
thy looks promise cheerfully.
all things are answerable.
No, don't break it.
No.
You went, you see, you had a marvelous story and then you went, well, things are answerable, you know. When you take on a character, when you take him on, anybody you're playing, you've got to take him on physically. You really have to. You know, you've got to take on the fact that he is a killer. That De Flores is a man who knows about his physical sensibility. So the way he moves, the way he walks, his whole, don't laugh, Chris. His whole, you know, it's just, it is that. I mean, so that he has got great ease and danger. You know, real danger.
Talking about stillness.
And you're talking about stillness. Stillness is way, you know, the best actors, the greatest actors are those that displace the air when they move. You think, my God, I saw the air part as that man walked. You know, so that you, and that's, you know, some people have that. And some people work on it. Some people never get it, you know.
Soft you now, the fair Ophelia. Nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered.
Good my lord, how does your honour for this many a day?
Oh, I humbly thank you. Well.
My lord, I have remembrances of yours that I have longed to redeliver. I pray you now receive them.
No, not I. I never gave you aught.
My honoured lord, you know right well you did. And with them words of so sweet breath composed as made the things more rich. Their perfume lost, take these again. For to the noble mind rich gifts wax poor when givers prove unkind. There, my lord.
Are you honest?
My lord,
Are you fair?
what means your lordship?
That if you be honest and fair, your honesty should admit no discourse to your beauty.
Or could beauty, my lord, have better commerce than with honesty?
Aye, truly. For the power of beauty will sooner transform honesty from what it is to a bawd than the force of honesty can translate beauty into his likeness. This was sometime a paradox, but now the time gives it proof. I did love you once.
Indeed, my lord, you made me believe so.
You should not have believed me. For virtue cannot so inoculate our old stock, but we shall relish of it. I loved you not.
I was the more deceived.
Get thee to a nunnery. Why wouldst thou be a breeder of sinners? Now, I am myself indifferent honest, but yet I could accuse me of such things that it were better my mother had not borne me. I'm very proud, revengeful, ambitious, with more offences at my beck than I have thoughts to put them in, imagination to give them shape, or time to act them in. What should such fellows as I do, crawling between earth and heaven? We are arrant knaves all, believe none of us. Go thy ways to a nunnery. Where's your father?
At home, my lord.
Let the doors be shut upon him that he may play the fool nowhere but in his own house. Farewell.
Sweet heavens, restore him.
If thou dost marry, I'll give thee this plague for thy dowry. Be thou as chaste as ice, as pure as snow, thou shalt not escape calumny. Get thee to a nunnery. Go! Farewell. Or, if thou wilt needs marry, marry a fool. For wise men know well enough what monsters you make of them. To a nunnery! Go! And quickly too! Farewell!
Restore him.
I've heard of your paintings too well enough. God has given you one face and you make yourselves another. You jig, you amble and you lisp and make your wantonness your ignorance. Go to! I'm no moron and it made me mad! I say we will have no more marriages! Those that are married already, all but one shall live. The rest shall keep as they are.
Very well done. Very well done indeed. Well done, Richard. Well done, Tamsin. Well, you know, it's all there, really. Tamsin, what's the main problem of playing someone like Ophelia? What's the most difficult thing about it? I mean, I'm sure there are lots of difficult things, but what?
Well, I think because she's a pawn in a lot of ways for other people to play with.
That's right.
And so, in that way, it's difficult to make decisions on your own about her. In a sense, it's what other people give you, and she's dependent on relationships with people to get.
That's right. So she exists through others' eyes, or she exists through the beneficence of others.
Yeah.
Others allow her to exist. I mean, Ophelia is a victim in this play, and quite clearly because she's one of the early victims in the play in terms of, apart from the death at the very beginning, and her father Polonius's death. You know, she dies by her own hand. So obviously, what happens to her in the play must be incredibly traumatic. I mean, she could be a bimbo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
She could be this absolute kind of, hello. I mean, let's just try it. Let's just try it and play it as a complete bimbo. And just see what happens. Just for the first few beats. Go as far as you like.
Off to you now, the fair Ophelia. Nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered.
Good my lord, how does your honour for this many a day?
I humbly thank you. Well, well, well.
My lord, I have remembrances of yours that I have longed long to redeliver. I pray you now receive them.
No, not I. I never gave you aught.
My honoured lord, you know right well you did. And with them words of so sweet breath composed as made the things more rich. Their perfume lost, take these again, for to the noble mind rich gifts wax poor when givers prove unkind. There, my lord.
Are you honest?
My lord?
Are you fair?
What means your lordship?
That if you be honest and fair, your honesty should admit no discourse to your beauty.
Could beauty, my lord, have better commerce than with honesty?
Aye, truly!
Yes, all right. But you see what happens, that we've actually freed Ophelia up immediately. Well, she can be quite that bimbo-ish or not. It's not. I mean, she was...
did I ask her out?
That's exactly. But again, what released? It released certain lines. You suddenly heard certain lines for the first time. Because the trouble with Ophelia, you know, you get this and you think, oh, here comes Ophelia, right? Okay, you know, let's read the program for this. But because we've all seen it so many times, and you think, yeah, here's another blonde girl coming on playing Ophelia. Here we go. Oh yeah, you know. And you've got to think, how do you make the? And certainly, you caught our attention. So, I think that what happens is that the difficulty in the scene, Tamsin, is that she must say, I have to do this.
Yes.
I don't want to do it, but I must do it. So she is making herself do it. Maintaining this locked thing.
Perhaps because Dad's standing behind as well.
Yes, because Dad's standing behind. I mean, if he's there over your shoulder, like, I say, come on, you know, go on. You know, you've got to go in. Yeah, pardon?
Be interesting.
All right, I'll do it like that then.
No, I'm just...
All right. Now wait till your dad prompts you, all right?
Right.
Okay, so you don't know, I'm going to be your dad. When I do that, you have to do it, right?
Soft you know, the fair Ophelia. Nymph, in thy orisons be all my sins remembered.
Good my lord, how does your honour for this many a day?
I humbly thank you. Well, well, well.
My lord, I have remembrances of yours that I have longed long to redeliver. I pray you now receive them.
No, not I. I never gave you aught.
My honoured lord, you know right well you did. And with them, words of so sweet breath composed as made the things more rich. Their perfume lost, take these again. For to the noble mind rich gifts wax poor when givers prove unkind.
Very good, very good.
There, my lord.
The great general public just seems to think it's learning your lines. You know, the thing is always asked then to me, how do you learn all those lines? That isn't the problem, madam. It's how to say them is the problem, not how to learn them. Because there are so many choices, there are so many thoughts, and a director will want the scene one way, another director will want it another, and then the actor himself will find what he wants. And usually it's a marriage of all those things. Because finally, the actor has to do it. And finally, he has to be completely involved in it. And it ain't easy. You know, acting's only part of a process, as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's complete for me, because it is vocational. It's like the priesthood. And I have no shame in that. I'm not ashamed to say that. I believe in it. I've had times when I have hated it. I have loathed it. I've loathed being at the hostage of it. But in the end, I do think that there is something remarkable about what we do, and something extraordinary in how it affects all our lives. That when you do something like a play like Titus Andronicus, and you realize that you are just, in the end, it's not self-aggrandizement. It's the fact that you're doing something that affects that audience. And you've got no responsibility. It's not to do with you anymore. It's to do with the event. And the audience go with it. And they come up and say, that was an extraordinary experience. And you always rather you feel very humble about that, because there's nothing you can say. You've merely been the instrument of something that's going on, you know, and you've prepared yourself over the years so that you can allow that to transfer through you. But in the end, it's a very humble-making experience, being in something which has enormous ramifications in terms of how people recognize their lives, recognize how lives are lived. Events and tragedy are obstacles, and they're coming at you. And the protagonist's job is to keep the obstacles at bay. He keeps pushing them away. He keeps batting them out into outer space, like Superman, those great meteors that keep flying at him. And he bats them away. He bats them away. He bats them away. So he's going through this play, batting these. I mean, if you play Titus Andronicus, you're exhausted, you know, because everything's coming at you. You turn round, your daughter's had her tongue cut out. You turn round, your son's had his head chopped off. You turn round, you know, your brother's crying lying in the ground. You know, so everything is happening. You're saying, how much more can I take? And as the actor, you keep pushing it away. And you know that you've got to go on that journey. You know that you've got to walk that track. And there's no way out of it. You can't avoid it. You can't say, oh, well, you know, I won't do it tonight. You know, I'll muff it. There are actors who do that. There are players who do. But you have to understand the responsibility of the work that you're dealing with. But at the same time, you can't not but deal with the specifics. You can't be too smart, because you've got to be in it. You've got to be engaged with it. You've got to put your body, your soul, your feeling, your spirit, everything on the line. You know, it's war. Acting is war. You know, you go out there and you're in a state of siege. I mean, even certainly, particularly in tragedy, but even in other plays. But tragedy particularly, you got to. If you don't cut it, it ain't no good. The audience are going to feel cheated. One of the myths I'd like to dispel is the idea that tragedy cannot be funny, that tragedy hasn't got its humorous side.